Hi class, this is lesson 8.6, Identify Special Quadrilaterals. So what this lesson is really doing is just making sure we can identify the difference between the quadrilaterals that we've already studied. So example 1 says quadrilateral ABCD has at least one pair of opposite angles congruent. What type of quadrilaterals meet this condition? Well, what I would do is I would flip through my foldable and look at each one of them and go one by one. So a parallelogram, yeah, it's got at least one pair of opposite angles congruent. So I know that's one of them. The next one would be a rhombus. That's got at least one pair because it is a parallelogram. A square and also a rectangle. Those are all parallelograms, so they'll all fit this. Our last two, kites and trapezoids. Well, kites, yep, they've got exactly one pair of opposite angle congruents. Trapezoids could, but not always, so we're not going to put trapezoids on here. So it's just these 5. On your own 1A, I suggest you pause this one, look through your foldable, and try and figure out which ones fit this category. Okay, so it says quadrilateral ABCD has both pairs of opposite angles congruent. So now we're saying both pairs. So you should have said a parallelogram, a square, a rectangle, and a rhombus. Those are our 4 that have both pairs of opposite angles congruent. All right, let's look at these last 2 here. It says quadrilateral ABCD has both pairs of opposite sides congruent. And again, both pairs of opposite sides congruent. What types of quadrilaterals meet this condition? Again, I suggest you pause it and try this one. Okay, so you should have found that, again, it's a parallelogram, a rhombus, a rectangle, and a square. And our last one here, it says, what is the most specific name for the following figure? Explain your reasoning. Well, if you look, we're shown that all 4 of the sides are congruent. We don't know anything about the angles, though, so the most specific name that we can give us is rhombus. And that, let's say it has 4 congruent sides, but we don't know about the angles. So rhombus is the most specific that we can get. And let's flip this over and look at the other page. On your own 2 here, it says, what's the most specific name for the following figure? Explain your reasoning. So again, I suggest you pause it. Try it on your own. Okay, the most specific name that we're going to give this, given that I've got 2 pairs of sides, or actually a pair of sides here that are adjacent and congruent. Here's a second pair of sides that's adjacent and congruent. We would call this a kite because we have 2 pairs of consecutive congruent sides. Next one is enough information given in the diagram to show that the quadrilateral FGHJ is an isosceles trapezoid. Well, looking here, I've got this angle and this angle being congruent, and those could be our base angles. So I have 1 pair of base angles congruent, so yes, it's enough information. And that's because we have 1 pair of base angles that are congruent. So it's definitely enough to show that this is an isosceles trapezoid. And let's look at the last one here. It says, is enough information given in in the diagram shown to show that quadrilateral BCDE is a rectangle, and explain your reasoning. So again, I suggest you pause it and try this one. Okay, knowing that we have 4 sides and 3 of them are 90, if we do 360 minus all of those 3 90-degree angles, we'll be left over with a 90-degree angle. So we know angle D has to be 90 degrees, so yes, this is a rectangle. So is enough information given? Yes. And that's because the sum of a quadrilateral's angles must be 360 degrees, making angle D equal to 90 degrees. All right, and this is the end of it. So this lesson, like I said, is really just pulling together all the shapes that we've talked about and seeing, can you identify which shape is given, and can you identify which properties each shape has. Make sure if you have any questions, you ask me about it, and have a fabulous night.